My father considered me his equal in intelligence. He saw us both as superior to the rest of the world. He didn't want to love me as a child, but as a woman. He wanted children by me. I kept saying, I want you to love me as a daddy. He kept saying back to me, I don't love you that way. I don't want to. I love you as a woman. I was 10 years old then.
I knew it might happen anytime my parents left me and my brother alone together, especially if Jack was upset about something. I tried to make excuses to not stay home, but my parents didn't want me to go anywhere while they were at work. I mean, all I could do was stay in my room and lock my door. I was really afraid of my brother, and I hated him. I just don't understand why my parents couldn't see that.
When I was 8 years old, I had this favorite aunt and uncle. My uncle had this truck, and we used to go riding around on the weekends. He really loved to fish, and one weekend he asked me if I wanted to go with him. I was really excited. We drove out to the mountains and hiked up to this lake. We fished all day, and both of us caught some fish. Just before it started to get dark, we went back to camp, and he built a fire, and I got to cook out the day's catch. I was really happy. Then it started getting dark, and it was time to get into our sleeping bags and go to sleep. I remember how dark it was. I had never slept outside before, and I was a little scared. My uncle asked me if I was nervous, and I said yes, I was. Then he asked me if I wanted to get into his bag with him, and I said, sure. As I lay there with my uncle, starting to fall off to sleep, he began touching me in ways that I didn't want him to. Then he started pulling at my pants, and I was too scared to say anything. Who would have heard me anyway? I couldn't believe this was happening to me, or that he was doing it. He raped me that night. As soon as I could get free, I ran back to my own bag. I was crying and sobbing and scared. Scared of this man that I had trusted. He never said a word. The next morning, he acted as if nothing had ever happened. Well, I told him that I wanted to go home now, and that if he ever touched me again, I would tell my aunt and everyone else that we knew. Well, he never did touch me again. And pretty soon, my aunt and uncle, they moved away. But no matter what happens in my life, I will never forget what he did to me. Never.
You're watching New Image Teen Theater. We're a group of actors and actresses who perform for teen and adult audiences.
We think incest is an important issue to discuss and do something about. We hope you will learn from the stories we will present.
You want to go out? See that boy ever again? You won't if you tell. No car, no dates, no clothes. I'll show you who the father is around here. Someone's got to teach you about sex, and it might as well be me. It's my right. I love you so much, Cindy. And this is the way I show you my love. Society thinks it's wrong, but we know it's right.
But it is wrong.
It is wrong.
Incest is an adult taking advantage of a child's trust.
In a study of 203 incest cases, 1 out of 4 daughters became pregnant by their fathers, and 1 out of 10 gave birth.
In a local prison survey, 2/3 out of all sexual abusers were sexually or physically abused as children themselves.
In the California incest treatment program, 1/3 were natural fathers. 1/3 were stepfathers, and 1/3 were other relatives.
1 out of every 6 children is an incest victim.
It is hard to understand why a father or mother would do such a thing to a child. It is said that some people don't know how to have a close and affectionate relationship in a non-sexual way. Fathers and mothers like this turn to their children for sex to meet their needs.
A stranger came into my home when I was 5 years old. My mother never knew, and of course I never told. He came into my bedroom when mother was away, and said if asked any questions, this is what I should say. So he chained me to his burden, and he threw away the key. Still after all these years, I'm struggling to be free. A stranger lived inside my home when I was 10 years old. My mother never knew, and she didn't want to know. Don't take candy from strangers, mother always warned. Mother, can't you see the strangers in our home? Grandma sitting by the Christmas tree, can't you hear my silent testimony? I'm trying to protect the only family I have. Why does the stranger have to be my dad? I was homesick from school today, and I was watching Donahue, you know, that TV talk show. There was this woman on the show whose father had done to her what my father had done to me. She gave it a name. It's called incest. She said there's this group called Daughters United for Girls and Sons United for Boys who could help me. I don't have to take this any longer. I don't have to stay like this. I moved away from my house when I was 18 years old. Nobody ever knew, and of course I never told. My boyfriend Bobby, he kept asking me why my dad kept me home so much. Well, I finally broke down and told him that my dad makes me have sex with him. Bobby told me that his stepdad had done the same thing to him, but he told the counselor who reported his stepdad to the police. Bobby, my boyfriend, he reported my dad to the police.
I told my favorite English teacher because she really cared about me. It's such a relief to finally not have a secret life.
I told my cousin, and she told my aunt, who called the Child Protective Agency. But I just couldn't tell my mom. My brother told me that if I ever told my mom, she wouldn't love me anymore. Well, I finally told my minister, who reported my brother and talked to my mom and me. My mom told me she believed everything I had to say. She told me she still loved me. I read a newspaper article the other day, and it said that less than 2% of all the kids who are sexually molested by a family member ever can rid themselves of the feeling of fear and shame that were forced upon them. I believe that we can do better than that. I've never been able to forget what's happened to me. Every day, I have to tell myself that it wasn't my fault. And the truth is that it wasn't. I was the victim. I didn't ask for any of this to happen to me. I'm angry at what was done to me. And I have the right to feel that way.
I won't let what my dad did to me stop me from loving myself. His burden is not mine. Every day, I tell myself that I'm beautiful and that I'm special and that he was the one who was wrong for doing what he did to me. It wasn't my fault. I know that my body and my sexuality are mine, and no one has the right to take advantage of it. Every day, I realize how wrong he was and how strong and special I am.
So he chained me to his burden, and he threw away the key. But after years of struggle, we're learning to be free. 1 out of every 6 children is an incest victim.
It's such a relief to finally not have a secret life.
After all these years, I'm struggling to be free. A stranger lived inside my home when I was 10 years old. My mother never